right here.
All right, everybody on the call ready to go?
Ray, you're muted.
Oh, am I?
I'll unmute you. We still have a minute, but, all right. They can just hear you.
Hi, everybody on the line. We'll get started in approximately 45 seconds to be exact.
7 o'clock.
Oh, it's 7 o'clock now according to Jess. I'll go with 30 seconds then. Just wait for the thing. Okay, we're gonna add in like 13 seconds.
It's right here. No. The public hearing be closed. Public portion, sorry.
Okay.
And then I move to close the meeting, adjourn the meeting.
All right, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. Are we okay up here, ladies?
Yep.
Wait, I think we have it. All right, Jess, Nicole and Tom. Good evening, everybody. Please rise for a short prayer and a salute to our flag. Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all of our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice and service to our nation, and may He now watch over and protect our servicemen and women, now guarding the gates of freedom. Salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the state of
and to the
America,
republic for which
and
it
to the
stands,
republic
one nation,
for which
under
it
God,
stands,
indivisible, with
one
liberty
nation,
and justice for all.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, today is our second telephone council meeting. So as we did at the last meeting, I will ask Jessica to read a statement of publication before we take our roll call.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the mayor and council being held on this 27th day of April 2020 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please, Jessica.
Councilpersons Delina,
Here.
Enriquez,
Here.
Mar. Here. McGill,
Here.
Novak, Roberts.
Here.
And I'm just gonna do our professionals. The business administrator,
Present.
CFO,
Here.
engineer,
Here.
attorney.
Here.
Okay, I just want to announce, to help keep the meeting as organized as possible, residents who wish to speak in one of the public portions are to press star 9, which will notify us that a person from the public wishes to speak. At that time, you will be asked for your name and address and be limited to the 5-minute comment period.
Thank you very much for that, Jessica. At this point, I'll just remind everybody also that's on the phone right now, it's just a professional, so please make sure that your phones are on mute so that way it does not interfere with any of our audio and ability to hear. With that, I will ask then for approval of prior minutes, either Donna or Michelle.
Which is it?
It's approval of the prior minutes, so I just need a motion,
Motion to approve
subject.
Second.
The minutes as listed.
the minutes as listed.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all very much. We do not have any proclamations or presentations today, but in light of the current situation with COVID-19, I would like to use this opportunity just to put a couple important information pieces that I've received just a couple of hours ago on my last county weekly update, in addition to a few local announcements that I think are important before we move on with our regular agenda session. So as I was saying, I'll begin with a couple of statements from our freeholder director for Middlesex County, Mr. Ronnie Rios, who just wanted to put on record all of the hard work that all of us are doing, that is the mayors, the council people, during this very trying time. With that, I wanted to also give you our state, our county, our Middlesex County positive case numbers, and then I will go into our local positive case numbers. So as of just a couple of hours ago, In Middlesex County, we have a total of 256 new positive cases today, for a total of 11,062 within Middlesex County alone. The total death count, sadly, in Middlesex County is 402, and we continue, unfortunately, in Middlesex County to be within the top 6 counties of the state when it comes to our reported numbers. Now, with that, I don't like to just dwell on numbers all the time because I think that we need to acknowledge a couple of things. Number one, we are beginning to see throughout the state a flattening of the COVID-19 curve. Because of our social distancing measures, we have been doing a very, very good job here, especially locally and within Middlesex County, to actually start to see the curve flatten. In North Jersey, they're actually starting to see a decrease. So they've actually reached their peak, they flattened, and now they're actually starting to see a decrease. In South Jersey, they're actually still seeing a rise. Middlesex County, though, we are actually at that flattening. We are still at that peak, but our numbers aren't really going up as drastically as we had expected. Also, keep in mind, we here in Middlesex County have made it a very strong effort because we believe that one of the only ways to combat COVID-19 is to increase our testing. We need to know how many people have this virus, and we need to make sure that they quarantine and they make themselves, make social distancing an important part of their lives as well to keep everybody else safe. So here in Middlesex County, we are yet again announcing that we have a brand new testing site opening on Thursday. That testing site is going to be a walk-up testing site, and it is opening at the A.C. Redshaw Elementary School in New Brunswick, starting Thursday at 10 a.m. This will once again be by appointment only. The appointments time slots are opening. There are 200 slots per day. So Thursday will be the first day that that walk-up testing site opens, and it will also open on Friday. This is for the saliva testing. So you'll note that in Middlesex County, we will now have 3 official test sites that are using the newest and the quickest response tests that we have. And as a result, in Middlesex County, more people have the ability to be tested, more people are able to get their results sooner, so you will see our numbers starting to go up more. That is not a bad thing. If we know who is exposed to this virus, then we can take the necessary precautions to make sure they don't expose others. With that being said, I'll move into just a couple of more things from the county report. We had Senator Bob Menendez on the phone call, and one of the things he was focusing on was both the CARES Act that was passed earlier, that was passed in March, the $2 trillion stimulus act that came in. That was originally designed to try and help as many small businesses as possible, but what they found with that $2 trillion stimulus act is some of the small businesses that needed that support the most did not receive it. Instead, you saw bigger companies that were able to get their hands on that money, and they needed to make that right. And we know that part of that had to do with the access that the banks had in order to process those types of paperwork and those applications. So your smaller mom and pop shops, the people here in Saraville, our local pizzerias and smaller places, even cleaners and so forth, they did not get an opportunity at that money. So our senators are working hard in order to pass a second stimulus act that is going to bring in as much as $60 billion or more to those small businesses, specifically those that have those smaller number of employees. And we all need to be watching to make sure that our higher government officials do the right things by that. I won't go into each and every component of that. One of the bigger pieces, though, that we need to look at here locally is how we are going to get money and funding from the federal government into our local municipalities. And one of the things that all mayors, bipartisan effort, we are fighting to get money to come into these local municipal governments. As we start to see the financial impact of COVID-19, not just the physical, we don't know where our revenues are going to be, and we need to make sure we can get as much assistance as we can from the federal government as well as from the state. So this second pieces of legislation, the SMART Act, and some of the others that are being pushed through Congress at other levels, we need to make sure that our voices are heard so we can provide the services we need in order to keep our government, and that includes our schools, running. That concludes my report as far as the county initiatives here. But I'll ask that everybody please pay attention to those acts and those new stimulus bills that are coming up. Locally, I'll be very brief. Tonight, our local numbers as far as positive cases. We have 9 additional positive cases reported today. Yesterday was the largest number of positive cases that we saw at 30. Today, we have 9. We currently have 16 reported fatalities. And in every one of my mayor's messages, Nixle alerts, borough blasts, I know that we are all keeping very close eye on the number of positive cases, the number of fatalities. But it angers me a bit when I see people so fixated on that number, almost as if it's like watching a football game score. You have to remember that each one of these numbers is a life. It's a resident here that's either a friend, a neighbor, a grandmother, a grandfather, and a mom or a dad. I get a little choked up because one of our most recent fatalities happens to be somebody that I know, and I know his kids, and it's difficult when it hits hard, when it hits home. And I had seen a little bit of a back and forth regarding our numbers and whether or not they align to what the county was reporting. I thought I made this clear on multiple mayor's messages. Our local numbers are updated every day once they have been vetted by our local police chief and OEM, and that includes our captains. Those numbers oftentimes come in from the state and from the county higher than what we eventually vet out. Our numbers are 100% true and accurate. Our numbers have not changed or wavered. Our initial count of our 15 fatalities, while the county was reporting at 1.20, I knew were correct. And I implore every single person that is listening or watching to know that the work that our police chief does, in addition to Captain Kiernan and others, takes hours to confirm, hours to research, because at the state level, they are putting this data into these systems, sometimes out of hospitals or might be coming from other, health offices, and the information is coming in quick. They don't have a chance to vet it. It then goes down into the county, where the county may not necessarily know our zip codes, our addresses, the names may be misspelled, but the moment it comes into our local hands, we know our residents. We know their names, we know the addresses, and we know those houses, and we are the ones that are catching those problems. I will not address this again. So I am asking every single person on this call, every single person that's listening, when you see this back and forth going on, oh, who's right and who's wrong? At this point, our local numbers are right, but more importantly, people, this is about lives, not about numbers. And the more that you can recognize that, I think the better that we'll all be. These numbers are gonna go up, they're gonna continue to go up. Just support one another. And know that every single time a new positive comes up, that's another family that is going to need our help. And that's what we should be focusing on. That's what we do. But I don't like to see some of that rhetoric that's starting to come out. That is the wrong direction. My last 2 pieces that I want to address, Fort Grumpy. I have spoken with the Director of Public Works. I've spoken with multiple mayors, bipartisan, Republican mayors locally, all of which, for the most part, have agreed that the recycling centers are not an essential operation right now. Every single day, we revisit this with our director, Bernie Bailey. Our employees are being worked at different shifts in order to make sure that our most essential services are being provided, and that right now is our garbage pickup here, your everyday garbage pickup. We have to make sure we have enough employees in order to do that. I know that many of you are cleaning out things, and it's frustrating to see that washing machine in your backyard, a pile of wood, a toilet that you took out. I get it. This is, listen, difficult times, but I need you to prioritize. I know people are going to say, well, nobody really touches this, and I don't come in contact with them. I'm telling you right now, it's a domino effect, and yes, there is interaction there. We have to verify if you are a resident or not. We have to turn around and sometimes handle the debris or the material. We have to turn around then and move and haul some of these things. And one thing we know about COVID-19 is that not only can you transmit that from person to person, but it's actually a virus that lives for a certain amount of time on materials, and you are putting these employees at risk. And therefore, you're putting some of our essential services at risk. And we can't do that. So have patience. We revisit this issue almost every single day, so that as soon as we can get back to normal, we will. We did make a decision that we have already started picking up leaves, and we will start moving by next month to start picking up grass and branches again. We're doing what we can. The last thing I want to do is to turn around and have what's happened in some other towns where almost their whole government gets shut down because of the level of infection within the employees. And we have done an excellent, excellent job here at making sure that we've protected our employees and as a result, and in turn, protected our residents.
And we currently don't have any employees that have contracted the virus due to our diligence.
And I'm gonna knock on wood, and if you didn't hear what Councilwoman Marr said, that yes, I'm proud to say and happy to say that our employees have really gone above and beyond with making sure they take proactive measures to keep safe. We do not have any reported COVID-19 cases here within our employee base, and we need to keep it that way. So residents, I need you to be patient and know that we are trying everything that we can, but Fort Grumpy will remain closed.
And no one wants it open more than I do. If you see my driveway, it looks like Fort Grumpy itself. So in our free time, we've been cleaning out and doing a lot of organizing, and we are desperately waiting as well for it to open.
Bathtubs make beautiful planters. I'll say that. Bathtubs make very beautiful planters. Paint the outside, be creative, people. But more importantly, be patient. We'll get through all of this together. I heard someone laugh, and I think it was probably my friend Dave McGill. That is my local update and my county update. I appreciate everybody taking the opportunity to listen to that. When we move down to new business, I do have a couple of other things I'd like to put on the record, but I'd like to continue now with our ordinances for our old business. So,
Public hearing on the following ordinances. Ordinance number 500-20, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 33 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Section 33-11, totally disabled veterans tax exemption.
and that is Councilwoman Roberts, please.
I move the public hearing be closed.
We gotta open it to the public.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. We do have to open to the public first. Thank you, Jess. I will open that to the public for anybody wishing to speak on that particular ordinance. If you do wish to speak on that ordinance, what you will do is signal hit star 9 on your phone, and then I will call out your, I do not see any. Oh, there is one, hold on. Let me look, I don't see him. Oh, I do see one. I'm sorry, you're up top here. So I have Mike, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Scanelli. And actually, I think, okay, Mike, if you're on the phone, please just give me your name and address, and you can speak on behalf of that ordinance and that ordinance only. Mike, are you there?
Can you hear me? Yes.
I can now, very loud and clear. Mike, we are talking
I
about,
apologize for that. I was raising my hand in the online chat because I'm trying to see the meeting, and I didn't know which way it was going to be working, so I thought a host was going to discreetly text me and ask me if I had a question or something. So it wasn't in response to that ordinance.
okay, well, Mike, well, thank you for actually raising your hand anyway, just so that you know, if somebody didn't tell you, this is not a videoed meeting. We are only doing a telephone meeting, so you won't be able to see us like some of the other towns may be doing. We have stuck with the telephone feature because we felt that it would be a little bit easier for the majority of our residents. However, we could get fancier as this continues. So Mike, if you don't have a question on this, then I will have you go back into mute, and I will look to see if anybody else would like to speak on this ordinance.
I understand how to raise my hand now. Thanks.
Very good. Try it again next time when we do another public portion. All right, Mike then is not going to speak on that, and I don't see anybody else from the public that has a hand raised. Okay, with that being said, now we can actually have a motion. Thank you.
Okay, I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Here. Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing on ordinance number 501-20, and ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 435-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the years 2020 to 2022.
Okay, I will first open to the public for any and all comments regarding ordinance number 501-20. If you would like to comment on that ordinance, please press star 9. I'll wait a few seconds. I do not see anybody that wishes to speak on ordinance number 501-20, so at this point, I will ask once again Councilwoman Roberts for a motion.
I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all very much. Next, we have appointments. I actually do have a couple of appointments here, but I'm gonna hold off on those. That's to the Green Team until we, just check with, Elise on those to make sure that we can move forward with them. Under new business, just before our ordinances, I did have 2 more pieces that I know is typically out of turn, but they are important. I don't wanna wait until our second agenda. The first is actually a memo that I had written to Mr. Dan Frankel, and hopefully he forwarded over to Ms. Bianca Mano. So, as I mentioned before, one of my primary focuses is my concern for our budget right now and the concern that I have for our residents in reference to taxes. So I will briefly read to you a directive, basically, that I gave to Mr. Frankel, and I'll ask for council comments on it, but I was pretty adamant about this. I wrote, Mr. Frankel, we owe it to our residents to help ease the financial burden this pandemic has caused as much as possible. The budget that will be up for introduction before the council was created and developed prior to the COVID-19 crisis. While I believe that our initial budget represented responsible spending and allocation of taxpayer money, I feel that it would be irresponsible of the council to introduce or pass that budget without reviewing it and making changes that keep in mind the financial struggles that our several families, residents, and business owners now face. I am directing you, Mr. Frankel, and our CFO to decrease the proposed budget increase by at least 25%. And to present your findings to the council for introduction at our next meeting. We need to find a way to operate and provide services at the lowest cost possible now more than ever, which I know we've always done, making sure that our residents have as much money as possible to provide and survive during this time with their families. This was something that I wrote up the other day because as I was looking more and analyzing our budget and watching what was happening in other places, I think that we need to do that. And I know that our budget, we did not adopt it, and I think maybe that was a positive thing where other towns did. I know that we had anticipated having to do a slight increase. I believe it was a 3.9 increase, but I think we can do better now. I think that we need to take another harder look at that and at least reduce it by 25%. But I want to open it up to the council for any comments or thoughts on that. These were my feelings. So I'll ask if the council wanted to either support that directive or...
I think that's a great idea. I think that the fact that you're acknowledging that some residents are falling on hard times right now and may not be able to incur those higher taxes, it's very responsible of you.
Yeah, I think it's something that makes a lot of sense. We have to operate, and we've always run very, very lean, but I think we have to tighten the belt even more.
I agree, we do have.
I would also like to third that. I think it's something that needs to be looked at. It's something that needs to be checked. To benefit our residents going through difficult times at this moment, and it's a great plan.
Thanks. I believe that was Councilman Delina.
And I agree.
That is
I
correct.
think
That is me.
there are places where we have to make some hard decisions, and some things that might be nice to have will have to be left behind now until we can get over and see what the impact of our current situation really is.
I agree. Anybody else?
This is Councilman Enriquez. I would like to piggyback on everybody's opinions here. I'm in total agreement. We definitely need to look at everything and knock our percentages down. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So basically, unless anybody else has something else to add, I think, do we still have Dave on there?
Yes, we do.
I knew it. If you wanted
And,
to,
no, as Dana says, piggyback, yes.
Very
It's extraordinary time.
very
Very extraordinary times, and I don't really know what the answers are, but the taxpayers of Sayreville, they're bleeding, and we all know they're bleeding, and we need to find something to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much then. So with that, I believe then Denise and Dan, you have some hard work to do, because I know there wasn't much to cut originally, but at least a 25% decrease of the increase. I know it sounds weird, but that's in essence what it is. And if you can get that, as low as you can, that would really be helpful. Present that to us. I know we're not up for presentation today. I'll let Denise speak on that. One more thing, I do have to ask for the council's okay on very quickly. I was speaking with the police chief late last night after we were getting our final count in, and we have a very unique opportunity that's been afforded to the Sayreville Borough, in that we are able to, if you all agree, to provide voluntary testing to all of our first responders through the help of the Jewish Renaissance Center. What they are willing to do is to come into our municipality to test all of our first responders. They can usually handle 200 tests a day. We cannot have them for too long. We're trying to see what their availability is, how quickly they can come in and do that. This is the throat swab. It comes back within 24, 48 hours usually, provided that the labs are able to process without too much overwhelming numbers of people. Woodbridge has already done this for their employees and their first responders. Right now, we're asking for the first responders. That would include our police department, our EMS, and our volunteer fire department. In the event that we are able to test more of our employees in that first round, or if we can get them a second time, my thought is we need to consider doing our other essential employees, and those would be the individuals that have the most exposure potentially, either to the public or other sensitive materials. So I was thinking probably our sanitation crew, our water and sewer department employees that are often in the field when there's emergency breaks and so forth, and obviously some of our zoning officials who are still doing some of those emergency reviews and going into homes when they have to inspect certain things. If we can get more than just our first responders. We do need to respond back fairly quickly, let the police chief know that we would be interested in doing this, at least for our first responders. So I will ask for comments, so that way we don't have to belabor this in the agenda portion. Comments, I'll start with the ladies that are here first, so that way we can go to the phone next. So,
As you said, it was offered to us
Yes.
free of charge.
free of
And
charge.
it is a standard test that is known and approved, and it's going to help identify whether someone's carrying COVID.
Yes,
I think it's important so that we know that upfront, if it happens, that we can quarantine them and protect everyone else. As long as our first responders are on board, I'm completely on board.
right. And what's great about this is it is voluntary. This is not something that we can mandate. And the cost, no cost is incurred by our actual employees either. So this is all handled and put through health insurance providers. So there's no cost out of pocket to our employees or to the borough, which makes this, quite honestly, I think, a no-brainer.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a no-brainer. My husband, who's a first responder in a different county, went today to the urgent care in East Brunswick because he doesn't have anything like this offered to him. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
That's great. I'm glad to hear.
I do want to thank you for saying that it is voluntary, so we are not mandating it for anyone, so it does not have to be done, but it's great to have it available. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually put voluntary in capital letters towards the top of my paper here so that everybody understood that. I'll open it up now to our council people on the phone for any comments in reference to that, so that way we can update our chief.
Sure. This is Councilman Molina. I think this is essential to keeping our valued first responders safe, and it's a great move. And I hope everyone comes back negative, and I hope everyone is still staying safe. Our first responders in this difficult time, and I think it's a great move.
Thank you, Councilman Delina. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Councilman Enriquez. It's a great idea, Donna. Those were great questions you asked, because those were some of the ones I had. So thank you for that, and I think this is a great opportunity for our first responders.
Thank you for that, Councilman Enriquez. And then I will go once again to one of my favorites over there, Mr. Councilman McGill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a fantastic idea. Probably should have been done a long time ago. I thank the members of the Jewish organization for getting involved in this to help with the first responders. And since the word of the night seems to be piggyback, I'd love to see somehow threading in all of our people at Public Works too, because if you ride around Sayville, you see these men and women on these trucks, on and off the trucks, in the parks, water department doing the same things, always interacting with the public. So it would be nice to try and get them in on this too. Thank you very much. It's been a grand idea.
Absolutely, and we'll push to see how many we can actually get, and the availability of the Jewish Renaissance to hopefully come back if we do not get to capture all the people that we can. I appreciate that support.
And my husband, when he was at the doctor today,
Thank
the
you, ma'am.
doctor said that you actually hope that it does come back positive, showing that you had it without even knowing, and then you may be somewhat immune, possibly immune. We're still doing research on that, but it definitely will assuage people's fears, knowing that they already went through it and could donate plasma to those suffering, or go to work a little bit more confidently.
We've been very lucky, and luckily here, Saraville, we've been very proactive. And thank you to all the council members, everybody, for supporting that initiative. So, Mr. Frankel, you can contact Chief Zabrowski tomorrow and let him know that we are all on board and that we need to make the arrangements in order to start this as soon as possible. So thank you for that. Now we can move on to our consent agenda resolutions. At this point, I will open to the public for any comments or questions regarding consent agenda resolutions only. And I'll take a look over here at my phone and my laptop to see. If you wish to participate in comments on the resolutions that are on the agenda, you can hit *9 on your phone. That will give me a hand raise to let me know that you wish to enter the public portion. And I'll just wait a few seconds. I do not see any hand raises in reference to our consent agenda resolutions. So ladies, I'll ask for somebody to make a motion in order to accept the consent agenda resolutions. Oh, first actually it will do it, yeah. To close the public portion and accept the consent agenda resolutions.
Okay, I move the public hearing to be closed and to accept the consent agenda resolutions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilman McGill, any opposed? I'll ask anybody opposed to closing for the consent agenda resolutions. Do we have to do a roll call on that? Yeah, we have to. Okay.
I do have questions on two of the consent agenda items. Should I do that during the roll call?
No, you can do it now.
So I know that we talked about 2020-102, authorizing the business administrator to sign certain documents. We clarified that at our last meeting. I just wanted to clarify it again today, because I did still get questions, that it is for the Saraville waterfront. It's the one behind the senior center.
No,
No?
it's
Okay.
the Riverton site.
It is Riverton.
It's the Riverton site, yes. North American
Sorry about
Properties.
that. And anything that is signed will be available to the public so that they know exactly what's being signed. This is meant to streamline the timeline that we continue to miss for permits that have already been approved activities, but not
Right.
permitted. Okay, if someone
And
can
all of
paraphrase
these-
that better, that'd be
Mr. Frankel or Mike Dupont, it's my understanding that anything that was to come before Mr. Frankel would first have to go through the redevelopment agency before even coming here. So would you be able to speak on that more, Mr. Dupont?
Yeah, this resolution is strictly for permitting person. It's not to change any landscaping, site plan, anything of this nature. It's really administrative in nature. And Mr. Frankel will, provide any and all, a copy of any and all the permits that have been requested, whether they be water permits, sewer permits, or whatever that case. So that it just speeds up the process to allow the construction phase to continue.
Thank you. And the second one, again, we spoke about this at the last agenda meeting. I just want to make sure it's clear. The renewal to contract for basic life support services and emergency medical transport services with Hackensack Meridian. That we are going to do it for 1 year only instead of the 2 years originally suggested. And the primary reason we're going to continue with them without the review that we expected is because of the situation that we're in. We are still going to do a review on their services, their billing, and we will revisit this. But because of the circumstances we're under now, it makes more sense to stay with them and keep that continuity, where I would like to review this when this contract is up.
Understood.
Just to clarify, there's some concern that you don't have a choice which hospital you go to, but that is incorrect information.
That is not accurate information. I know I guess there were some statements being thrown out there. And no, Mr. Frankel, are you on the line in reference to that? Councilwoman Marr had asked because residents were stating that they were not that if you use a JFK or the Hackensack Meridian ambulatory services, that you must go to one of their participating hospitals. We know that's not to be true. Mr. Frankel, would you like to speak on that?
So that absolutely is not true. And the proposal that they gave us from the beginning had that also. That was included in that. The problem that we're having now in this pandemic is that the ambulance services know which hospitals are full and not full. They know which to divert and not to divert.
Right.
The resident always has a choice, but to make sure of the health and safety and welfare of the resident, the Hackensack Meridian does know which hospitals can get someone in faster and look at someone faster. They will divert to that hospital, and that's the service that they're giving us right now.
And for the record, that's not just the Hackensack Meridian ambulatory services. That's also our Morgan and Saraville responders. Also, they are being told if a hospital is being put on divert or if a hospital is at a point where they can't receive any more patients. So the same protocols are really in place for all of our ambulatory services, whether it's our paid service or our volunteers. Is that correct, Mr. Frankel?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much, and I do appreciate, just for the record, I again had spoken to Don Riley, who is the president of the Morgan First Aid, in reference to this one-year agreement, and he agreed that at this point this was we needed to move forward with it. He was okay with that, and I also wanted to thank the chief and again our OEM officials and Captain Kiernan and others that put together some of those requested reports, so that way we could have a little bit more insight into what's going on already. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, then with that, we have our move to adopt that resolution. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilpersons Marr,
Here, yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
McGill,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And then we'll move on to our CFO's report. Denise, are you still on the line?
I'm on the line, Mayor. No report, thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Borough Engineers report, Jay?
No report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. Borough Attorney, Mr. DuPont?
Yeah, I just have one thing to update. And I instructed the borough administrator to send out a report of CME dated April 17th on Fulton Landing, the Mako property.
Yes.
And when I received the report, it indicates that Mako, or the Fulton Landing owner, removed about 250 trees without the necessary permits, and CME is recommending a fine of, I think, around $95,000. I had the opportunity to speak to attorney or counsel for Fulton Landing on Wednesday. Then I followed up with discussions on Saturday and Sunday, and I finally got a response this morning and they gave me some argument as to why it shouldn't be instituted. I didn't buy the argument, and I'm going to ask for authorization to have Kirk Mick issue a fine in the amount so outlined in the report of CME dated April 17, 2020.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dupont. Then, so it's my understanding that what you're saying is move forward with the report that was put forth by CME and turn around and, in essence, find that developer for that removal based on our ordinances?
Yes, that's correct. And it's based on the tree conservation and reforestation ordinances in the borough. So I just need authorization to authorize Mr. Kirk Mick to issue the charges.
All right, so you need that authorization from the council right now?
Yes.
All right, so let's go through this then, based on the recommendation of the attorney. Do you want a roll call for this, Jess?
Yes.
Yes, please. Okay, so
Who's gonna make the motion?
we need a motion to accept the recommendation of the attorney to move
I
forward.
make the motion to accept the recommendation by Mr. Dupont.
Okay,
Second.
multiple seconds there. And let's take a roll call then.
Councilpersons Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill,
Definitely yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, you have your authorization, Mr. Dupont. Thank you.
Thank you, and no further report.
Okay, at this point then, I'll open to the public on any and all issues or questions that you may have. If you are somebody in the public that is wishing to speak, please hit *9. That will indicate a hand raise, and then you will be brought into the main portion. So I have a couple of hands that have gone up, and I'm going to read off the last 4 digits of the phone number that was called in under, and then that individual will be live. You'll need to give your name and your address. So we'll start with the person calling in from 6436. You are live and unmuted now. Please state your name and address for the record, please. That's 6436.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. This is Vince Conti from 4 Yorkshire Place.
Hello, Mr. Conti.
Listen, I wanted to follow up on that last issue with the trees. Can we force that developer to also replant at least that number of trees within the community in addition to the fine? So they took down 250 trees. Let's have them plant 250 more.
Well, before I would ask that the mayor and council do not weigh in on this in light of the fact that there may or may not be litigation, and plus there will be, liens and charges filed against the applicant. They may raise the argument. That certainly is a good suggestion. Whether they're in a roadway or right of way, I don't know that. So out of abundance of caution, I'd ask that, you kind of hold that question and let the process play out. But I will take it certainly to the applicant.
Understood. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conti. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Conti then is out of the public. Let's go to our next number. The last 4 digits are 0254. So the person calling in from 0254, you're now live in the public session. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Hi, Art Rittenhouse, 33 Delacat Lane, Sayreville. Good evening.
Hello, Art.
Hi, how you doing? I'd like to compliment the mayor and council on reviewing the budget. I think that's a good idea under these circumstances. The other thing I'm calling in, which you probably can guess, is what Mr. Dupont just addressed. And I would like to thank him for getting that done and thank CME and Jay Cornell. I was disappointed I did not receive a copy of that when it was issued as chairman of the Sayreville Shade Tree Commission. And I was told I was going to get a copy, but fortunately, Councilwoman Roberts did send me a copy today, so I had a chance to review it. One of the things that comes out of this is when we allow a developer to do work without permits and without checking the permits, this is the type of thing that happens. I would also, in addition to the lawsuit that will be filed or the charges that will be filed, that no work should be done on that site until this matter is corrected, so that they don't do things in the future, such as this.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Rittenhouse. I appreciate that. And unless the attorney has anything to state, I know that we probably should not weigh in, being that this is potential litigation.
Yeah, there's no further comments. Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Michael. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, you too. Be safe. Okay, our next public participant is calling in from the phone number 1601. You are live in the public portion. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Steve Malinowski.
Hi, Steve.
28, hi, Nikki. Madam Mayor, it's 28 Scarlet Drive in Parliament. I'd also like to compliment the council on looking at the budget, because at this time, any expenditures, whether we like them or not, at a different time with the virus, et cetera, and all the hardship that everybody's taking, would only be detrimental to, as you put it, increase in taxes, hard times for everybody. So if it's necessary or must-haves to support the residents, that's one thing, but anything that's supplemental or nice to have, I think has got to pass on, and I think that's what I heard tonight. But in reference to Mako and Fulton's Landing, it seems to me to be such an ongoing free-for-all, and it seems that the Mako properties are doing anything and everything. I've heard Mr. Rittenhouse talk to about contamination, testing, et cetera. No responses. We heard about we're going to put tree lines and all this, and now we hear they took down 250 trees. What I'd like to really ask the council is who is monitoring what they are doing in that pit, in that property, because after the fact is more difficult, as everybody knows. It's a problem is 15 more times difficult than to address it before it happens. So I think we need some kind of oversight for this process, because, as the gentleman said in the beginning, all right, $95,000 fine. Will they pay it? We're going to waive it? And what about replanting the trees? And yet alone, they said there was going to be about 3 deep, if I remember correctly, tell me if I'm wrong, that there were going to be about 3 deep tree lines to the property. The other event that we also brought up, and I think I brought it to council, is we have a noise ordinance. And Margaret Properties has asked for, and we have granted 7 by 24 of trucks, traffic, etc. Well, what happened to our noise ordinance? Because we here in White Oaks, in the area that we're in, I don't want to hear trucks at 11, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I think there's a number of things, and the best and most important thing is who is overseeing this to put a rein in on what they're doing or not doing, or what they're allowed to do on that property.
Mayor, if I may address that. Steve, good comments. They have filed an application with Sarah a few weeks ago. They have filed escrow. They also received and should be filing either today or tomorrow revised plans with CME comments and suggestions. So many of those worries that you have are going to be addressed. This is the first step for oversight, not only in the application by Sarah, but also by the borough, associating and making sure that our tree ordinances are protected and the consequences will be felt for violating them. So I think in the next probably 3 or 4 weeks, Sarah will be having a hearing on this application. I'm sure there will be a couple hearings to determine the application. But I think that if you follow and attend Sarah's hearings, you will be able to address any questions that arise between now and then. And in the meantime, we are moving ahead with respect to the consequences of violating our tree ordinance. Thanks, Dave.
And I do appreciate that comment. However, I know we've discussed this before. Sarah is an independent organization. I know the mayor supposedly appointed members of Sarah. But my question is, who's got the oversight and direction of Sarah? So if Sarah turns her in and says,
but if I might interrupt, Steve, the borough has oversight in terms of compliance with its ordinances. All right, there is the matter has been sent to Sarah for their review. So the borough, obviously Kirk Mick received the report of CME and went out and inspected it with CME. So there will be consequences regarding, the ordinances that were violated. So I just can't stress enough that the borough is in complete review and oversight on the project in terms of its ordinances. And Sarah will be also working in conjunction with the borough to ensure that the application and the site plan meet the necessary requirements of Sarah.
and I do appreciate that. My question still remains, if they decide to dig a 1,000-foot trench in their property, who's watching it or oversighting it day to day? I still haven't heard a comment yet about Mr. Rittenhouse's comment about soil testing, contamination, etc.
No, that's not true. A couple meetings ago, or 2 meetings ago, they supplied all the necessary permits. Their permits were up to date. They forwarded correspondence to CME associated with their geological and permits. The permits were up to date. That occurred at, I think, Jamie said, in the February meeting. So their permits are up to date. The question is, to ensure that they comply with the permit. And I know CME as well as the borough have certainly kept them to their promises. That's why I made the recommendation after hearing arguments that they gave no really valid reason in my eyes as to why they cut the trees down. I do know, and I found out on Wednesday, that they did file the application in front of Sarah. Whether those trees are going to be in roads or right-of-ways, I don't know because I haven't seen the site plan. And obviously, actions taken without authorization are going to suffer consequences. And so that, I think, indicates that the borough means business, and the borough is overseeing the site to ensure that it complies with all of its ordinances and also, all of its land use requirements here in the borough of Saraville.
And I thank you for that, because that's the first good step I think we're taking in that. I'd love to see if that's the fine and that's the ordinance that they did not comply with. Collecting that $95,000 goes a long way to sending a message rather than rhetoric back and forth. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Be safe.
Thank you, Steve.
You too.
Okay, so we have a couple of other hand raises here, and I just want to make sure. I'm going to go to Mike again, Ganelli, because I know that he has been on the line and he practiced before joining the public session. So Mike, I'm gonna, you're live. I'll ask for your name and your address just one more time.
All right, Mike Ginelli, 25 Embroidery Street here in Fairville.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, so actually, I want to bring up 2 separate points. On the agenda, I was reading about the local public contract law and purchasing, and I'd like to know if that applies to the micro purchases and the threshold, and if you can tell me what that new threshold is.
I'd have to defer your question over to possibly our CFO, but we also have a QPA that is not on the call, so I'm not sure if Denise is able to answer that.
Okay, it looked like it was part of the agenda for today, so I don't know if you got to that part yet. It looks like you might have. But my question is really based on a service and a product that my company actually provides, and we're going to different towns in the area because we're a resident here. We'd like to speak to people of Sayreville.
Oh, well, then that's...
Feel about things. So I want to know who I should actually talk to.
Yeah, I'll have you...
discuss products with and stuff.
For that, I'll have you contact our business administrator, Mr. Frankel. and you can contact him. You want to give him that number, Jess?
Sure, his office number is 732-390-2924.
Okay, and just so he knows, I know he's on the call, it's related to COVID-19 and the whole thing that's going on here. It's not just service I'm trying to use this time to promote or anything like that. So I do want to just give him a heads up that I'll be calling him to reach out that I do have something that's a concern, the public spaces that we can provide a service for. My other point is I did send earlier today an email about the Bailey Park land.
Yes.
I was wondering if it was received and if those questions were going to be talked about tonight and read into the minutes. It said it would be.
I can address that. I'll address it for my borough clerk. What we've been doing is all emails that are sent to be read into the record here and discussed, we usually read those into the record after we take the public calls off of the screen, off of the lines. So yes, your email is actually before our borough clerk. She just passed it to me to let me know that she believed that you were also the gentleman that sent that email. So we can address those now with you on the line if you like, if you wanted to ask those questions, or if you would rather us read your email directly into the record and then address those questions point by point. These are your questions. You sent them via email. I think by law, we actually have to read them into the record anyway, even if you were to state them verbally. Is that correct, Jess?
I believe so. I mean, either way, if he's going to ask them, we can respond, or if he wants me to read it, I can go ahead and read it.
Okay, since you're the author of the email and you're also on the phone with us, I'll ask you to tell us how you would like us to proceed. We can read them direct from the email and then answer them, or if you want to ask those questions live to us and hear the responses, it's up to you.
Well, I think you have the email, and it's plain sight. The email states questions that are straightforward. I have no problem with you reading them. There are several of them. I tried to write the questions in an order such that you could read one, answer it. If it's a no, move on to the next one. If it's a yes, then provide the additional information that is in the follow-up question. And it's all really relevant to concerns that that have been brought up in discussion, that I'm aware of that I have, about contamination, the land itself, money that would be used for it, where it's coming from. So by all means, I don't want, whatever way is the quickest way not to take up the time, please read it into the minute.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll read these into the record, and then council will be able to make comments based on those statements as they feel fit.
And also, if Dan and the engineer would also listen, I know I sent Dan this email, but to answer some of these questions. I'll go one by one because it's going to be a little bit. Is Bailey Park land or water contaminated?
I'll rely on our professionals. Jay, for that one, probably?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any contamination issues on Bailey Park.
Okay.
And has any testing been done to prove the land or water is not contaminated?
I'm not aware of any testing that's been done.
Okay. How many $500,000 applications were submitted for this Green Acres project?
Oh, that must be the newspaper report that came out that was 100% inaccurate, that I had a lovely conversation with reporter Matthew Soklar on, or Sokar, who reported that the council was obtaining a second grant or some type of matching grant in reference to Bailey Park. After a lovely conversation, he actually pulled the entire article off of the site because he realized that he was not reporting accurately what transpired here at the council meeting on the 13th. There's only been one grant obtained, I repeat, obtained for the Bailey Park project. That grant was given to us back in January. The funds were released back in January. The grant was actually given over before that, but if you remember, the governor had put a hold on all of those grant monies being released when they were going through their budget process. So we officially received that grant in January. There was a press release with, Assembly Speaker Coughlin's comments, Yvonne Lopez, our Assemblywoman, and Senator Vitale, along with myself. We have not moved forward with any additional grants in reference to Bailey Park. Despite what the newspaper report said, it was actually regurgitating information from multiple years ago regarding a spray park as well. I can tell you definitively that the $500,000 grant that we did receive, we know is not going to be enough in order to put in a splash park, but would be enough to do some type of upgrades to that park. So no plans have been officially put into place. I tasked CME with coming up with a plan that would be the smartest and the best for upgrading that park using the monies that was given. So that is the truth, the real story behind the Bailey Park grant. Next.
Were the applications approved?
Which applications would that be? So,
Those applications that you just spoke of.
well, it'd only be one, and that was approved months and months and months and months ago, actually before 2020. So that was in 2019, and in 2020 of January was when we officially got word that the grant monies would be re-released after the governor had put a hold on those. So the grant was received in 2019 and officially made available to the borough in January.
When was the motion to apply for the application voted on?
Oh, my God. Oh, that was
Well, I guess that was all summed up in the previous.
Yes, thank you. I'm assuming, was I right, Mike, that you were reading some type of article that was inaccurate?
This was that was a part of it. There
Yep.
was a lot of back and forth. It seemed to me like there was a lot of opinions more than facts. And it seemed at some point somebody would have to clear the air on this because there's too much debate on what is factual and what's not.
Well,
So
thank
I
you.
wanted to clear up a lot of things that I've been hearing. It does affect the surrounding neighborhood where I live, too.
Very
And I
good.
have a concern for it, but I was just trying to be helpful and cover all the bases.
Thank you, Mike, because sometimes, just like you saw, common sense prevails, and you said, I'm just going to ask the question. You also saved my comments for my mayor's comments on the agenda session real quick, because that was my last closing statement for the meetings today. So thanks, Mike. I appreciate you asking those questions, but I think there's more.
What is the plan for the Bailey Park cleanup, including testing, cleanup, and certification?
If I may interject on that question, she asked it so nicely and I heard it clearly, but I did also hear a response, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Jay Cornell. If he could expand on the contamination, he said he wasn't aware of any, and I don't know his role in that, but if there's other information that someone could provide as far as that, because to me there's a big fence around the water part, and since I moved into the town many years ago, the talk of that area was that it was contaminated. So it seems kind of odd that there's a big fence there and nobody really uses it. It almost looks like a Chernobyl site, and it's not known to be contaminated. And if someone could, even not tonight, but get back to the public and let us know what the deal is with that land and why it's shut down, and if it is contamination, we move on to the next couple of questions. We just want to know to what extent is it contaminated, and to what extent has the town tried to do in the past, might be trying to do in the future. What plans have we come up with? What do we think should be done? And let's address the contamination part and find out what's really going on there.
Well, can we have Jay? Do you want to just address any of those? First of all, Jay Cornell is our borough engineer with the CME company. So, Jay, did you want to address any of those statements at this point?
This is the first I'm hearing of a contamination issue at Bailey Park. I'm wondering maybe what the resident is questioning. Years and years ago, you used to be able to swim in the pond in Bailey Park. And years ago, it was determined that the water was not safe to go through and swim in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if that has now come back as being a contamination. I don't know. And that's the only issue I'm aware of at the park. Whereas years ago, we used to be able to swim there, it no longer meets the standards to allow you to swim.
Okay, and I think it's that level that's maybe the word contamination and other words associated with the contagion, and we're all in this coronavirus pandemic craziness now. I think it gets mixed up in what is believed to be unsafe and why the conditions are unsafe. So if everybody knew why they were unsafe, instead of equating it to a contamination that you're saying it's not, then what is it is really the concern then. I mean, if my swimming pool is full of algae and I can't swim in it, it's probably not safe. But why isn't the lake safe to swim in?
We might have to get
Whatever it
more
is.
information in order to find out why what that standard is. I don't know if Jay has that. I know Councilwoman Roberts, without having a visual on us, but she's been waiting to add a comment, so I'll ask if we'll just let her speak for a second.
And this is just from history and growing up here when it was Duxies. One of the concerns you had is why is there a fence around it? And I think Jay mentioned that it was a swimming hole. And you did have to have a badge and pay for it. So it was fenced in, and I do recall going through the one part of the skinny gate with your badge to go to the beach back in the day. So the reason for the fencing was because it was a paid beach. And I'm dating myself, but Duxies had a fence around it. Now it's Bailey's Park.
There you go. So we may have just cracked the gate, mystery,
The
possibly.
gate.
And I
Gate.
think Mike mentioned, I think we can all agree that Bailey's Park needs improvement.
Oh, I think there's no doubt that Bailey Park needs that improvement. And I'm all for improvements that in essence, are through a grant and not through our budget.
Yes.
So I was happy to receive that. That took a lot of time in order to acquire. So, Mike, I know that might not be definitive, but at least, you're getting some of those answers. I'm sure Jay will look into it as well, to find out if there's anything more there. Jess, any more?
Next question, what is the total cost for the cleanup?
Right now, we're under the assumption that there is no cleanup necessary because we don't have information to support that. There is.
Next one, what is the plan for the Bailey Park Splash Park construction, including the entire land and water use, include total area, acres, proposed development versus remaining undeveloped land, driveways, landscaping, play sets, parking, signage, buildings, engineering, architectural contractors?
Okay, so I think we kind of answered that before. We are not even close to being there yet. We do have the grant money. It was allocated to us back in January, and COVID-19 came very quickly and very fast into my mayorship. And even though I had tasked CME earlier with coming up with a plan that would utilize the $500,000, realizing very quickly that is not going to be enough in order to put in any type of splash pad. I do believe that the current crisis now has probably delayed them being able to put that much attention into those plans, although we will probably have to start really looking at them because as most grants go, we have timelines we have to meet with the state to show them that we're actually utilizing that money. So I'll leave that in the very capable hands of Jay Cornell and Dave Samuels to continue to work what they need to. But right now, there is no plans to actually put in place and answer those questions, Mike.
And Mike, I live in your neighborhood, and I look forward to our neighborhood getting improved and improving the value of our neighborhood, our home values.
Good point.
Okay, next one, is the entire Bailey Park going to be developed into a splash park? We kind of answered that. If not, what percentage of the existing Bailey Park will remain undeveloped? And if so, will the undeveloped portion remain contaminated? If not, what steps will be taken to clean up the undeveloped portion of Bailey Park for the public safety and welfare?
So I think we've kind of already addressed all of those as well. Were there any additional, Jess?
What is the total cost for the splash park construction?
I think we've addressed that.
What is the cost for the maintenance, upkeep, and staff?
Addressed?
Who is going to pay for maintenance, upkeep, and staff salaries?
Addressed?
Who pays for any cleanup, construction beyond the $500,000?
Not there yet.
Can the money be returned to the state?
Could we turn around and decline a grant? I guess we could turn around and say, thank you for the money, but we don't want it. I don't know if anyone on the council is okay with that.
No, No, I want the money.
I want the money too. So it takes us a lot to get that money, and if we don't take it, some other town will.
And in order to move Sayreville forward, we cannot turn down free money.
No, we cannot.
Just show us the money.
Show us the money, that's right.
And
Of course, the money is a good thing, and to put the money to good use to make the neighborhood, the town, and all a nice place, a safe place, a beautiful place, and a clean place is definitely something that I look for. These questions, when their intent was to clear up, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of mystery, a lot of just people throwing around opinions without anybody fact-checking anything that anyone's saying, and whoever just spoken lives in the same neighborhood. I agree. We should have places that are safe and clean. I want to beautify the neighborhood and increase its value. I'm not suggesting that take the money and say give it back to the state. It was actually a point that some people actually brought up. Beyond the Bailey Splash Park and any developing of the contamination or any of that stuff, at least the biggest concern would be the safety. If it is contaminated, let us know what it is. If it needs to be cleaned up, we'll handle the cost of that within the means, whatever the grant provides. At the very least, we can do a little bit to clean up from the curb appeal. I mean, I don't see but maybe 2 or 3 cars in there, and whatever they do back there, I don't know. But it could be a very nice place to have for families to go and spend a weekend or something.
And it was for many, many years.
Again, all this was just to clear up a few things and make sure that the people can stay informed by asking the right questions and using the money appropriately.
Well, thank you very much for your common sense, Mike. I appreciate
For having the courage to ask those questions.
And for having the
Other
courage.
people just speculate over.
And that was Councilwoman Marr that said she lived in your area, and she also is saying thank you as well.
And just one of the.
Oh, okay. That's nice to know, but you're welcome. I don't think it's really a matter of bravery. I just want to be part of my town and see what's going on and share some input and see what the folks in our town are doing to make our town a better place. So,
Okay, and Jessica has one more question, I believe, from your
It's
email.
the comment that he made.
Okay.
Until and unless answers to the above questions are provided, I wish to be heard and my comments be recorded in the minutes, and that it be known to all that this project should not move forward until all testing of the land and water be conducted and the results shared with the public. Further, all estimates and a comprehensive report detailing all costs associated with all aspects of the land, water, studies of the impact on the surrounding neighborhoods, roads, and other infrastructure be conducted and reported to the public. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, so I think we took care of every part of that email, and I thank you again.
I appreciate it and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go now to our last, it looks like, hand wave that I have on here, and this is from a call coming in from 1601. Please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Malinowski, 28 Scarlet Drive in Portland.
Okay, Steve, you're
Can you
on.
hear me?
Yes, loud and
Okay.
clear.
I'm not here to take more than 5 minutes, and I'm not here to opine on Bailey's Park. Whenever we can improve the neighborhood and the residents' life, and is wonderful. Contamination, bad things. But what I'm here to really speak about, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, not a know, but grants. Grants in
Steve,
general. Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to ask to do me a favor because you're coming in a little bit with some audio issues. If you just hold the phone maybe a little bit further away, because we're picking up a little bit of like garbled kind of sound, so it's hard for us to make out what you're saying.
Okay. Is this any better?
Yes, much better, yes.
Okay. I'm not here to opine on Bailey's Park. I think anything that we can do to improve our life and benefit of the residents of Sayreville is wonderful. What I'm here to really discuss and stay into my 5-minute limit is the fact of the grant. And I want to caution everyone that grants are wonderful, as long as we don't have to participate and contribute to it, especially in this day and age. You know, with the virus, state pulling back the deficits that are going to be coming to budget, as our CFO would, you know, probably speak right out and say. So I'm very cautious about applying for grants where we might have to contribute, match, etc. And I'm not saying that the grant is not a good thing. It's a great thing. But at the point we are right now, with state revenues going down, I'm sure town revenues and taxes are going down. Residents are having difficulty paying rent, taxes. I'm assuming 5/1 is the tax payment cycle. I'm hoping that the town doesn't experience a deficit from people not being able to pay their taxes. So all I'm here to say is it's not about Bailey's Park or the benefit that could be, but I'm suggesting that we really look at, as a borough and a council and a mayor, that anything we do and anything that we suggest for a grant that we have to match, we really better be able to, one, have it in the budget and understand with all the deficits that are out there, this may become something that we may want to rethink, you know, nice to have versus must have. That's all I'm here to say, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. And with that, I will look in to see if there's anybody else from the public that wishes to speak. I do not see any hand raises at this point. So with that, I will ask for a motion to close the public portion.
Motion to close the public portion.
Make a motion to close the portion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's.
Second.
Thank you. Let's do a roll call on that because,
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
okay, a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, anybody opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so
Aye.
meeting adjourned, and we're going to move right into our agenda meeting then at this point, so I'll ask everybody to please stand for another salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Jessica, statement of publication again, please.
Take notice that this agenda session meeting of the mayor and council being held on this 27th day of April 2020 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Delina,
Here.
Enriquez,
Here.
Mar,
Here.
McGill,
Here.
Novak, Roberts,
Here.
and our professionals, business administrator,
He's here. He's here.
the CFO,
Here.
our engineer,
Here.
and attorney.
Here.
Okay, wonderful. So we have no new business, or old business actually for that matter. All, ordinances were already adopted. Let's move on then to communication committee reports. We'll start with Councilwoman Roberts for administration and finance.
To receive and file minutes and departmental reports from the municipal clerk's monthly report for February and March, and the CFO's investment activity report for February and March.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
To receive tax appeals, refer to tax council, numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Any objections? Okay.
Approval for authorization for the tax collector in consultation with the chief financial officer to prepare and issue estimated tax bills for the third installment of 2020 property taxes.
Resolution is required for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Resolution
Aye.
for next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Approve authorization for the tax collector to refund 2020 taxes in the amount of $2,690.34 and cancel all subsequent billed taxes covering 21 Orta Court Block 136, 167 due to approval of 100% disabled veteran tax exemption.
Approval. Any objections on that? Any comments? Okay, next.
Receive and file notice received from PSE&G of a petition filed for approval of the next phase of the gas system modernization program and associated cost recovery mechanism.
Okay, and that, we'll need a second on that. That's a receive and file. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. And, committee reports.
No, I'll have some comments a little later, but no comments right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Roberts. Planning and zoning, please. Councilman Delina, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following reports and minutes be received. Numbers 1 through 3, receive and file.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
There are no committee reports, but seeing that Councilwoman Novak is not here today, and I believe I'm number 2 on Public Works, I was just wondering if you'd like me to continue reading since, that she got here.
You read my mind. Would you continue right on with Council President Novak's Public Works report? You can do that right now.
Absolutely. I move the minutes and departmental reports for Public Works, number 1 and 2, be received and file.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments under Public Works?
I'm sorry, no, there's no comment or committee under Public Works. I would just like to thank you for reaching out to other mayors regarding the closing or that Fort Crumbie stay closed, seeing what other towns do. I was interested to see how other towns were doing with their dumps, and it's good to hear that everyone is kind of following the same lead. I also want to say, as I do at every meeting, thank you to all of our first responders, all of our essential employees for continuing to work throughout this pandemic. I know it's difficult, but I just want to say thank you, and I'm hoping that everyone stays safe, and within a few weeks we'll be out of it. Other than that, progress.
Thank you very much, Councilman Delina. Let's move on now to our public safety. That's Councilman McGill.
Thank you, Mayor. To receive and file minutes and department reports, move the following minutes reports to be received and filed. Number 1, municipal court report for the month of February and March 2020. And 2, the Board of Health registrar and county report for the month of February 2020. I just want to reiterate what Kevin just said. My thanks to all of the first responders in Sayreville and the borough workers and everyone else. The catchword here is it's a pandemic. Okay, it's a pandemic, and everyone has to be very careful, please. God bless all ears and progress.
Thank you so much. Can I get a second on those department minutes, please?
Second.
There you go. Thank you, Councilman McGill. Let's move on to Councilman Enriquez, please, for a recreation report.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following minutes reports be received and filed. Recreation Department report for the months of February and March 2020. Receive file.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. And any comments, Councilman Enriquez?
Not really. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just want to piggyback on Councilman Delina and McGill, and I'm sure everybody else. It's hard work, working under these pressures and conditions, and I really feel that this town is doing a great job, dealing with everything. Just everybody keep up the great work and progress, Mayor.
Thank you so much. And let's move on to water and sewer and environmental. Councilwoman Marr.
I move the following minutes reports to be received and filed. Number 1, Water and Sewers Director's Report for the months of February and March 2020.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
And notice received from the NJDEP on a public hearing for the FY 2020 annual fee report for the period of July 1st through June 30th, 2020 will be held on May 6th at 9 a.m. in Trenton.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And committee reports.
Just as usual, support Takeout Tuesday tomorrow. And if you don't feel comfortable going out, you can always buy gift cards over the phone. Thank you to our healthcare workers, and I think our pharmacy workers aren't getting as much attention as the others, so just wanted to give them a shout out. Again, parents, I know with education, this is not what you signed up for. It's also not what teachers signed up for, so I think everyone is doing a great job. I think our Board of Ed, our several schools are going above and beyond compared to other districts, so I commend them as well. Nothing else.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Marr.
Mayor, can I interrupt for a second?
You can, of course you can, Councilman McGill. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Just as a matter of who we all are, Councilman Enriquez goes to work every day as a longshoreman on the waterfront. Not exactly the safest place or the cleanest place. So he knows how dangerous this is. So I applaud him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Enriquez.
Oh. Well, thank you, Councilman McGill. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to second that. I know it's a tough and difficult job, and I know Councilman Rodriguez wakes up every day and goes to work, and it's fun. Thank him for doing that.
Yes, thank you. We have, listen, the word essential personnel now expands out to so many different people that we oftentimes take for granted. You know, our grocery store clerks, the people bagging your groceries, bringing in the fruit, the pharmacy workers that we just take for granted, like you said, the food delivery service. Who would have thought at this point that Uber Eats and those other DoorDash deliveries, this is Grubhub, these are these services, without them, I don't want to even think where we are. I think we take for granted some of the things that we have so easily at our disposal until we really truly need them and don't have those other simple things. That brings me to my report, and I try to be brief. I swear I do. I just want to touch base with two different things. Number one, to all of our small businesses, and I've had the absolute pleasure to be able to go to so many small businesses that normally I don't get out to do very often because our lives are busy. You know, anybody here that's in government and our council people, they know we're busy all the time, and especially now. But I've been able to, and I'm not going to name them by name right now because we're going to work on an initiative here through the council to really showcase, even more so than what Councilwoman Marr has already done with a document that she has throughout Facebook and other places, to really recognize and honor our small businesses, not just those that are open still, but those that unfortunately had to close their door. Just last week alone, I visited 7 different places, wanting to show my support and say, listen, I'm here for you. And I got to eat some amazing, well, I'm Polish, so I got to eat some delicious pierogies that I did not have to make. I got to eat some delicious babka. I had a dozen empanadas. I was able to enjoy, I love a bakery that's also very close there, so I brought home probably about 4 dozen cookies, some of which I dropped off at the police department. And just the other day, I had the absolute best subs and chicken Caesar salad that I think I've ever had in my life, right here, never having to leave Sayreville. So if you haven't already gone to visit, and just let these people know I'm here for you, and whether you buy something or not, just let them know that we're going to continue to be there for you. Let them know that, because they're hurting.
And My Doc is on our borough website, and it's a very informal process. If you'd like to get your name on it, you just have to reach out to me, whether through Facebook or online, and through email. And, you know, I add it one day, I take it down the next. If some places are closing for temporary closure, that's fine. But it's very informal, and but I don't know unless you tell me. So
Yes.
Every day gets updated by one of my dear friends, Hina Patel, who does amazing graphic artwork.
I love it. That's wonderful, and thank you for that initiative. A couple of things that you should be on the lookout for within the next week. Councilman Enriquez, under recreation, he and I have been talking about trying to bring some of our recreation programs, since we're not on the fields, bringing them a little virtual, bringing them to our Channel 15 Say TV channel, and possibly our YouTube page, because you know what, we might not be able to get onto the field, but we can definitely bring some of our coaches, some fitness programs, some crafts, and using our local library to bring some ideas onto our TV for some programming that isn't just letting you know what's happening through those frozen announcements, those screens.
And you
We're
mentioned
working
the
on that.
library, if I could interject, they've been doing an amazing job, especially if you have an infant or toddler. The shows that Hannah puts on every day and the other employees at the library, they really have been heroes throughout this for those with younger children.
Yes, and they opened up the library. My own daughters, they love to read, and right now they're itching for more and more books. So one of the things that the school has done in partnership with the public library is blasting out through the teachers and the students that you can still get books online through them. And they're doing their virtual escape rooms, which I thought was awesome. I actually was in the library virtually, which was really fun. I also wanted to, and just for I'm just trying to think, oh yes, here we are. There are amazing residents, which we already know, that have gone above and beyond in their own special way in order to make a difference, whether it be sewing PPEs and bringing them to different hospitals, whether it be delivering ice or custards or, you know, to a local hospital just to let our first responders there, our nurses and our doctors know that we appreciate everything that you're doing. These are our hometown heroes. Our police department, police auxiliary, and so many other people were ready, really stepped up to help us make sure we provide the food for those most in need. But it's the things that you do in your own house, those one or two people that just want to make a difference. It's time that we start to honor you. So that is another initiative that you will see coming out within the next week, where we get to recognize some additional hometown heroes here. I know you're not looking for the praise, but we want you to know, as the mayor and as council, that we see what we're doing, and we applaud your efforts, because without all of us pitching in to help, we're not going to get through this. But if we all pitch in and do our fair share, we will get through this, and we'll be able to look back and say that Sayreville was strong. The last thing that I will say is I had read something online. It really like touched my heart, because it was written from the voice of a kid in the future, saying, "Grandpa, I heard that you lived through that coronavirus time, that you were alive during that time and you remember it. And it was a horrible time and so many people died and we were stuck in our houses and you couldn't go out." And this post went on for quite a bit about this kid in the future really asking Grandpa to tell him what it was like and how horrible it was. And the response from the grandpa was actually really impressive. And he said, "Yes, I did live through that time. But that's not quite how I remember it. What I remember living through during this coronavirus was playing games with my mom and dad, going outside and bike riding instead of playing on my Xbox. I actually remember having dinners and walking around and calling my grandma and grandpa and FaceTiming people I hadn't seen in my family in years. So I know that what history is saying was that this was a horrible time and a pandemic and one of the worst times economically we'd ever seen. But I'm sorry, my grandson, I don't quite remember it the way you're saying. It actually was a terrible time, but it was actually a very good time as well." And I think it really kind of speaks towards what we're living through right now is all in your perspective. You can choose to look at these times and these numbers as the worst and the most negative things ever, and the things that you don't have right now, like Fort Grumpy. Or you can turn around and take a moment and ask yourself what you're grateful for and how we're going to stand up together and we're going to work through this. And I'm choosing at this point to try and look at the positive rather than dwelling on all the negative. So I'll ask anybody that's listening and watching to try that. Look at the positive and look at the good. And when we do look back at this, we can hopefully remember the story that the grandfather was telling the grandson, not just the horrible things that we're trying to get through right now. So with that, I'll move on to the administrator's report. Mr. Frankel.
Hey, Mayor, just hold on 1 second. I totally forgot something. This is Councilman Enriquez again.
Go ahead.
My daughter's been sitting here with me, and I totally forgot it is her birthday, and I want to make sure that I wish her a happy birthday on this council meeting. She's been waiting for me to say it. So happy birthday, Peyton.
Happy birthday, and Peyton.
Happy birthday, Peyton. It's my mom's birthday today, too, so I'd be remiss if I didn't tell her happy birthday, too.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we can't do horns and honking for you right now, but I can at least bang my gavel early and say happy birthday, Peyton.
Thank you.
You're welcome, honey. Business Administrator, Mr. Frankel, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to recommend extending the penalty fee for the dog and cat licenses by 3 months because of the COVID-19.
Any objection? Okay, moving on.
Request for ordinance to authorize the execution of a consent judgment, contribution agreement, and the recording of conservation easement of Block 20, Lot 3, Block 21, Lots 2 through 7, Block 22, Lot 1, and Block 23, Lot 1, in connection with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, et al. Versus Carbide and Graphite Group, Inc.
Any objection? Okay. Oh,
Can I just ask where those lots are?
do you have the a more specific location for those lots for Councilwoman Roberts?
I will give her a ring tomorrow.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
Dan, I can tell you, it's,
Okay.
Jay,
Dan, it's in the Wellfield. It's in the Bordentown Avenue Wellfield property. There's a wooded area, so that's what this property is.
Bordentown Avenue, what?
Wellfields, the
Thank you.
Wellfields.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, number 3, please, Ms. Frankel.
Authorization to award 2020 radio system maintenance contract to New Jersey State Contract T0109A83932 to TAPCO Public Safety in an amount not to exceed $77,335.
Any objection? Okay.
No, I just got a question, Dan. Is this who we've been using in the past?
Yes, we have. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. That's it. That's all I want to know.
All right. number four.
Authorization to use local public contract law emergency exigency purchasing exemptions to address COVID-19.
Any objection? Okay. Moving on.
Authorization to execute a discharge of mortgage subordination agreement for property located at 212 Pulaski Avenue.
Any objection? Thank you very much.
Just under the same subject for a second, probably under administration of finance, following the council's instructions, I was able to secure a firm to handle our communications through social media and press releases, and we're going to be starting that on May 1st.
Oh,
Name
thank
of the
goodness.
firm is Anthology Media Group.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Question, Mayor, is that in place of the communications director that we were talking about at the last meeting, or in addition to?
Dan, we're not doing 2. This would be what we were talking about at last
This-
meeting.
This was the last communication that we had. This will not be a communications manager. This is the group that will be doing it, correct?
Okay, so rather than hiring someone directly, we are contracting with a firm.
That's correct.
Thank you for that.
And is
Thank you.
it part-time, like we discussed?
Part-time, everything that we discussed, correct? Part-time, same terms, not to exceed.
Same terms. Exactly correct. Yes.
Okay, and what was that, 6 months? And it's starting May 1st?
Starting May 1st until the end of the year.
Yes, thank you.
Mike, we'll need
Authorization for the,
wait, hold on, Dan. Mike, we need a resolution for that at the next meeting?
Okay.
No, I'm asking you.
I think
if
it
we
was a
need
yes
one.
or a no.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll prepare one.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike. Okay, planning and zoning now, Mr. Frankel? Or public safety,
there's
nothing
no
under
planning and
plan.
zoning. I'm going to public safety.
Okay,
Authorization for the Sayreville Fire Department to purchase a used rescue truck 95 from the city of North Amboy in the amount of $5,000.
Is that for use as a fire truck or for use as parts? Do we have any idea what that?
Not for parts. It's for their safety with the fire department. If you recall, the last time they went out to Carteret to save some people that were on the ice, it's more of a transport vehicle, not a fire truck.
$5,000, that's impressive, I have to say. Okay, Public Works.
Authorization to approve emergency purchase of 1 truckload of 95-gallon automated garbage cans from Schaefer Systems. Our inventory is very low right now.
And just a question I had gotten recently, how much is in a truckload? Any
I
ideas?
believe around 400.
And how big of a cost is that?
They're $66 a canister.
All right, thank you.
That's per the resident. Or
I'm
the,
sorry, for the resident, $66, correct.
it's $66 a resident,
Per resident.
per resident, like,
For each
right.
can.
Is that
Right,
what
so
you wanted
I
to-
need a new one.
There you
By
go.
the way, guess what I need?
A new can. If it's broken, they can repair it.
Okay, yeah, it's cracked, so we'll take.
Oh, they might have to then, yeah,
Yeah.
replace, it depends.
So that was definitely a personal request on my part. Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Authorization to issue a purchase order in the amount of $15,000 to USA Architects for professional services in connection with the borough's application for Library Construction Bond Act funds.
And I do have a question on that one. You probably recall that last meeting, I was not on board with moving forward with the grant for the library because it was a matching grant, and I have questions on that. And this looks like it is in conjunction with that library grant to move forward with it, and it's a charge to the borough. Is there a reason why this is not being charged to the library's budget, first of all?
I think, Councilman Roberts, I think as we went previously, when we were looking at this expansion of the library and the history of it, is that they have tried for many years to work with the systems, working with the school systems, working with everyone, and working through this, we came down to this decision, which was probably about a year ago, about the expansion of the library. This is from previous discussions that we've had. This was a commitment that we made to the library that was probably over a year ago. I don't know exactly when, but I can get you the exact. So it is a commitment from our budget to the library to do this. We made that commitment a while ago. This has gone through. They've made all the drawings. They did everything so they would be in preparation, knowing that grant was going to be available. So the answer is, can I ask the library for a little bit of the money? Sure, I can. Did we make a commitment to do it? Yes, we did.
Okay, and I understand we did make a commitment, and this is historic, and I do understand we do want to live up to our commitments. However, in light of what the mayor had asked us to do earlier with pullback on the budget, moving forward, I would ask that maybe we ask at this time to be a little more flexible with those commitments.
Is this actually, with the USA Architects, is this for what they had already drawn up? Or this is work that
Yes.
they've already done? So this isn't
Yes,
something
this
new
is the
that
work
we're
that's already
asking
been
them
done
to
by
do.
USA, correct?
As a
Yeah.
future commitment.
That's what I figured in the way that Ms. Roberts, Councilwoman Roberts was asking. I don't think, this isn't new. This isn't something like we're going to incur this cost because we're asking to do new work. They actually did this. We couldn't have even given them the authorization to apply for it unless we already had this in place. That was part of the requirements of the grant. So we would basically be not paying them for work they did. I don't think we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that I don't want to do. I
Yes.
was reading it as a future commitment, so thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. Also, since Councilwoman Roberts brought that up, in reference to the grant for the library that we approved them to do when they came and they spoke, a couple of things to keep in mind, because I am extremely analyzing and sensitive to our budgetary situation. But there's a couple of things that I want to put on the table in reference to this Library Bond Act and the application for this grant. Number one, we did approve this pre-COVID-19, so that process had already started, as you can see, and that's why we have to pay when the bills are come due. We don't know if we're going to actually receive this $500,000 grant at all. So I think it's incumbent upon us to at least try for it. One of the other things that we need to realize is that there's a very good chance we won't get it, but in the event that we do get this money, we don't have to accept it. If we get to the point where all of a sudden, okay, we were granted this money, now we have to make a hard decision and our finances are unable to accomplish that and we can't come up with those matching funds. Remember, we questioned the state whether the matching 500,000 had to be given in one lump sum or could it be spread over the phasing of the project. And that was said yes to the affirmative. You don't pull that all up at front. I said, okay, because we couldn't afford $500,000 on a good day without COVID-19 in one lump sum. And the other thing to also keep in mind is as we wait just for the application process, we have no idea if that grant money is going to remain by the state government anyway. There's a very good chance that these applications and these grant monies, depending on what kind of fiscal problem the state is in, that they may turn around and cancel all grants. So I don't want to turn around and completely shut the door on something when we don't even know where we are in this process, if we're going to have to accept it, not accept it, or make arrangements for it. To kind of quote famous writer, we might be, much ado about nothing right now. because right now we don't have the grant. There is no impact on our budget. The monies we're paying for right now are really to cover the cost of something we had already asked for. And I think we need to wait to see how this grant, matching or not, plays out. That's my opinion.
May I have a clarification? Because I did ask, and this could be a clarification point, that if we apply for the grant and we are provided that grant, that we would have to accept it and move forward with the matching.
Is that, it's not my understanding, Mr. Dupont, it's my understanding that even if we were given that grant, if we are fiscally unable to receive that grant and match those $500,000 at that point, that we are not tied to, we are not forced by government to take that. Is that accurate?
That's correct. You can always turn down this grant if the mayor and council decide that they do not want to. They can always forego and turn down the grant.
Thank you for that.
Also, this is Councilman Enriquez. I just want to let you know that I have been in conversation with the libraries, and they do have funds that they would contribute to. So let's just say it's a $500,000 that we would have to put in. They would be able to add to that to match. So we would not, the taxpayer would not be footing the bill for a full $500,000. They would be able to contribute some money to that to try and offset if the grant is approved.
Thank you for that reminder, Councilman Enriquez, because I do recall them saying that both at our budget meetings, our workshops, and when they came and gave their presentation, I believe they said the same. Thank you for that reminder, Damon.
And just to reiterate what I said earlier, in order to move Sayreville forward, I don't think we can turn down free money. If we are financially in the place where we can afford to match that grant, the library has acknowledged a need for it, and myself as a teacher, as a tutor, as a parent of 2 children in the district, that the school rating could be higher. Tutoring and the library is where I would like to see an improvement. So if we are financially in a place to do so, I think it would be a good way to spend our town money.
I just want to make sure we walk into a decision with our eyes wide open and all our options available. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Frankel, I think we're at water and sewer.
Just before that, Mayor, just an observation, which I believe you saw this weekend and that I've had a couple of comments on. Understanding that you went on a bike ride this weekend, the boat ramp area was completely filled this weekend with boaters.
Yes.
They're allowed to be. The ramp is open. We just want to make sure that to put a boat in the water, you have to have a permit. The permit can be purchased online, okay, at the rec, through our website, through the rec department. We just want to make sure that to all of our residents and to all of the people that may be coming from other places, you must be permitted to put a boat in the water. Thank you. And the last thing is authorization to appoint James Ravel to Water Repair 3 in the Water and Sewer Department, effective May 1st, 2020.
Any objection? Okay. Thank you very
Thank you,
much. CFO Denise Biancamano?
I have nothing, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Borough Engineer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 items this evening. The first is the DOT Transportation Trust Fund. They're accepting applications for the 2021 Municipal Aid Program. That's an application the borough submits each year, and typically we'll get $300,000-$400,000 that we use for a road improvement project. So we're looking for authorization to submit that, and the road will be as discussed with the Public Works Director.
Thank you very much. Any objection on that? No? Okay.
Thank you. Second item is the 2018 road project phase 3. We're looking for a change order. It's not going to change the contract amount. It will just allow us to pay the contractor for extra work he did at the request of your Public Works Department and your Water and Sewer Department.
Any comments on that? No. Thank you very much, Jay. Anything else to add?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very
Just
much.
one comment. I know online many people are saying, well, everyone is inside, pave the roads. It's not that easy. Money is appropriated for this year solely. companies are forecasted out for contract work, and, it's not as easy as just calling them up and saying, okay, come out.
Right, but we have been doing some work on our roads, and, we had some. As scheduled. So I am proud to say that we are moving forward with the things that we can do during this time. Because, yeah, you want to take advantage of people, not being on the roads as much. So I know our town, East Brunswick, a few of the other towns, they are moving forward with as much of that work as they possibly can based on their previous allocated funds. Thank you. Borough Attorney's report, anything, Mike?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any need for exec session? I'm assuming no. And with
No.
that, I will open to the public for any and all comments. Let's see, I do have a hand raised here. It looks like telephone number 1601. Is that Steve? Yeah,
Steve Malinowski, 28 Park Scarlet Drive, Parkland, New Jersey.
I'm starting to recognize your number, Steve.
I know, I'm kind of a pain. One, I want to echo a lot of the comments that were made tonight, especially about our essential work. Talk a lot about all the emergency workers and that. I want to really echo the teachers that are working from home, the store workers, the delivery workers, etc., that are really kind of hanging this together for us. It's been lots in doing that at their home. So I want to echo those comments there. But the thing I want to bring up tonight is, again, if the $15,000 that's spent to USA Architecture for Preston Grove, that's fine. But the comment I made before was, I think in this day and age, especially with what's going on with the state, the virus, etc., the pandemic around the world, we're going to really look at what we're spending or looking to spend money on, whether it's out of the library budget, whether it's out of the state budget, or however. And I think we really got to look at the need this to get any way of working around it without impacting financial impacts to those, whether it be a facility like the library, the school system, etc. I think we have to look at that with open eyes and say, yes, we have children that need after-school care and PCs. We do have space in the school system. Maybe we need to look a little closer at things. And I'm not poo-pooing on any one thing that we're looking at, especially with this funding. But if there's any chance that the borough, the residents, may have to pick up some of that, I think we're really going to look at it with an open mind and say, is there a better way of going about it? So I'm not saying no, but what I'm saying is we really need to examine it, do the math versus the benefit, and can we do it another way that would not impact both the residents, the state, the budget, and I'm sure a CFO would agree with that. But that's what I want to bring to everybody's attention, that it's super important that we look deeply at that. Is there a better way or a less expensive way to do it and still accomplish the same thing? And I really applaud the council, the mayor, you, Madam Mayor, for bringing this, in the media that we all can participate in. And, look forward to participating in more of this going forward and contributing to the better, of the community in Sayreville. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak, please press *9 on your phone, and I'll bring you into the public portion. Just wait a few seconds. I don't see any additional participants. So with that, I will ask for a motion to close the public portion.
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call on that, please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Marr,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Okay, and before we ask for that motion to adjourn, everybody, thank you for participating once again on this teleconference council meeting. Everybody be safe, stay healthy, and with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call,
Second.
please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Delina,
Yes.
Enriquez,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our meeting for this evening. Everybody, again, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure. Bye, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Night.
Okay, everyone.
Goodbye.
We made sure, by the way, that the camera was on.
I hope Tom did. I thought about it midway and I was.
Hey, Nicole, the camera was on, right? Okay, thank you.